I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Oops, the podcast. I'm Giulio Gallerati. I'm joined by Francis Ellis. How you doing?
Good. Good.
Feeling
good
good?
enough. Fine. Ready to rock. Let's do it.
Feeling happy? Feeling good?
Fucking fried, man.
I know. It's been a long, strenuous, emotional situation.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, let me ask you a question. So we were talking,
Sure were.
thinking about making plans of taking trips down south, get out of the city for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Now I made plans, and now this is the first that I'm hearing about this hurricane, and it's really disappointing.
Yeah, Giulio makes travel plans the way that, you and I might make lunch plans, Chris. It's like, I was like, yo, dude, I might be going away next week. Let's grab some extra episodes. And then Giulio was like, well, maybe I'll follow your lead and fly to Tokyo. Never been there before.
Something like that. Not so far, but
Where are you going?
I was going to go to Dominican Republic.
The DR.
To do but to go to Santo Domingo, not go to a resort.
What's Santo Domingo?
It's just like a historic city that is old, and it's like a UNESCO site. And I thought that could be cool and interesting.
At what point is your bucket list actually going to kill you?
It may.
The pursuit of your bucket list,
It may kill
which is
me.
the items and places you need to check off before you die, is that pursuit actually going to kill you?
There's a chance it will. I don't think that this is a high risk activity, assuming that the weather is reasonable, which it sounds like maybe it isn't. At quick glance, it appears that Central America is the one getting hit hard at this point. Which and Jamaica though, which I think is close to the DR. I'd have to look at the map.
Couldn't tell you.
But the prospect of having a hurricane-filled 48 hours during my trip doesn't sound great. So
No.
I'm now reassessing my plans.
Time to
potentially.
reassess.
Could be time to reassess.
All flights are, refundable. Not refundable, but you can get credit and
You
just
get the
use
credit
it
back,
towards
yeah.
something else.
And I use miles, and I can cancel my hotel. So
That's great.
might have to do that. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what are you going to fucking do, I guess?
Yeah, you'll get back to the DR sometime soon.
I hope so, man.
Dude, I want to talk to you about Hillsong.
Oh, yes.
Carl Lentz.
Yes. Justin Bieber's esteemed mentor at one point.
Right. So if people aren't familiar, Carl Lentz is the pastor at a church called Hillsong. Hillsong was I think it was a Christian rock band that basically was combined with these very cool sermons and a church that's music based. It attracted a very young, hip audience, like 20 to 30 somethings. And it's basically like Christian pop culture church.
Right.
Now, I want to bring this up because I went once.
Oh, I think you told us about this very briefly. So I'd love to hear some more about it.
I was seeing a girl who was breathtakingly attractive.
Mm.
And she was a devout Christian.
This is how so many regretful stories start. She was breathtakingly attractive. ...
Yeah.
I found myself at Hillsong.
Well, let's put it this way. It would take a hard 9 for me to go to church.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. I'm not an atheist, but I am very secular. I'm very secular. And so I was very unwilling. And, it was early on in us hanging out. And I didn't realize how religious she was until we went. It hadn't really come up much.
Mm-hmm.
But we went, and it was at the PlayStation Theater in Times Square. It's like a 5,000 seat theater. Place was filled.
Didn't even know that existed.
They
by the
do
way.
multiple services a day with
That's
this
crazy.
many, and it's all, dude, It's all the hottest people you've ever seen in one
That's
place.
crazy. And they sing and shit.
Sing the whole time.
Well, dude, I saw a clip once in like a meme, and I don't know if this is the type of shit they sing, but it was like this guy being like, all right. He was like trying to rap. He was going, virginity is cool. Come on. Virginity
no,
is
that's not,
cool. Come on.
That's not
Here we go.
Hillsong. No, I know that clip. That's
a
not
great clip.
Hillsong. Yeah,
Okay.
that's like some abstinence camp. I've seen that.
Virginity is cool. All right. Virginity.
Yeah, and all the kids are wearing cargo shorts
Yeah, that's
and
insane.
glasses.
That's an insane clip.
Yeah, that is that. Yeah, no, this is not that. This is first of all, the music's good. If you couldn't understand the lyrics, you would think it was great music.
Right.
If you didn't speak English, you could listen to this and think like, wow, it's almost like Coldplay.
Right.
It's Coldplay-esque.
Mhm.
And they're brilliant musicians. And then after the music comes in and out, and then this guy, Carl Lentz, comes out to deliver the sermon.
And he's there. You saw him.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And he's wearing skinny jeans with ripped knees. He's got a flannel shirt on. He's got a crazy haircut with, a fade. He's got a sleeve of arm tattoos. So it's unlike any pastor you've ever seen.
He sounds like every guy at Soho House.
Yeah. Perfect example. He's got like 700,000 followers on Instagram. He baptized Justin Bieber. He's his spiritual advisor. He's close with like Kevin Durant. He's found a way to connect to celebrities where he makes religion more accessible to hip people
Right.
who don't want to subscribe to the kind of dark, rigid structure of Catholicism or, whatever. It's Christianity modern.
Right. He's like David Blaine.
Sure.
Connecting to celebrities through magic.
Yeah, that's great. And he's super hip and super cool. He came into Barstool one time. He did like a fucking podcast at Barstool.
He's probably the coolest guy.
Yeah. They call him Hot Pastor, right?
That's funny.
So I want to get back to him, but let's table him for 1 second. When I went, I was like, okay, well, this isn't as crazy as I thought it was. I kind of get it. But there was a moment where, everyone was singing, Water Over Me, like, Clear My Soul, I Am God's Child. And I was like, I don't have this. I don't have this in me.
Mm.
And the girl I was with would like close her eyes and put her hands in the air.
The Lamb of God.
Like we're at Burning Man. And I'm like, oh God.
Oh my God.
I'd
She's
rather-
rolling on Christ, dude.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Oh yeah, Francis. Yeah.
I'm like, I would do this at Burning Man with you. I actually would, but we'll take God out of it. So whatever. The whole thing,
God, dude.
yeah, the whole thing goes fine.
Hit this God, dude.
we go to that, and then we like hung out. We went on a couple more dates, and then there was a day where, me being an asshole, I couldn't not bring up Darwinism.
Mm.
And I don't know if I was just being combative, but I needed to feel her out. And it was one of those things where I was like kind of looking, I was looking for, I don't want to say a fight, but an irreconcilable difference.
Interesting.
So I brought it up and I was like, do you think that Adam and Eve were the original humans and that people only came to the planet however many thousands of years ago instead of, whatever, millions of years ago, whatever it is, organisms, all that stuff, dinosaurs. And she sort of surprisingly did have a somewhat literal interpretation of the Bible.
Interesting.
As a history of the world.
Interesting.
And I was expecting her to be like, I have this like spiritual belief and I believe in God, and I would have been fine with all of that. But her unwillingness to embrace what I consider scientific truths
Mm-hmm.
in evolution and all of that, we ended the dinner in silence, and that was the end of us.
Wow. Dude, here's a question I have about Adam and Eve. How were the first people that ever were created had Anglo-Saxon names? Like, is that names that we've given them later? Or was it said that they were called Adam and Eve upon their creation? Or does that even matter?
Dude, Adam and Eve are just one origin story among the many religious texts.
Totally. No,
out
I
there.
know. But I'm saying, like, how do they have names like that right out of the gate?
Well, I think the Bible has been translated so many times.
Right.
Right. So from its early iterations when it was like
So it was some Latin
stone
name or some shit.
something. Yeah, it was all Latin.
But
and-
even Latin wasn't around at the beginning of man either. But I'm just assuming they're assigning these names to these people and that's accepted. It's nitpicking, obviously. But nitpicking should be done.
Yeah, no.
when it comes to religion.
Certainly their names were not Adam and Eve
Okay.
in its earliest form.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Some kind of, probably like a shape or
That's what I was
something with
assuming.
their names. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, the bigger thing is like, if they were the original two, then the amount of incest required to populate the earth from them.
Right. From early
Like their
on.
kids banging each other and then their grandkids banging, and then finally you create a family tree. I mean, they're
Right.
all related from this original two people. It's like,
Dude, that's the origination of taking one for the team, dude.
yeah, just a lot of
Truly takes. Sorry, you have to bang your sister.
staying within the family.
You have no choice.
Yeah, a
Our
lot of
species
like,
depends on it.
step bro caught me in the shower and you'll never guess. Step brother caught me behind the rose bushes talking to the monkey and you'll
Next
never
to the
guess.
serpent.
Yeah.
So what happened with the Carl Lentz stuff?
Right.
I saw the headline, but I didn't really follow it.
So, I mean, I think it was like the New York Daily News or some tabloid said that he'd been outed for having a affair with a prominent New York City podcaster.
Wow.
Now, it's possible that means one of two of my old coworkers at Barstool.
I'm a person popped into my head immediately.
It's either the hosts of Call Her Daddy,
Right.
or it's this girl that I used to work with, Casey Smith. And I say Casey Smith because Casey was a huge Carl Lentz disciple.
Interesting. And you
I
have to
don't wanna-
assume he would go for the most high profile person being who he is. You know what I mean? So maybe
Yeah,
But-
I
okay.
have no idea. Look, I'm not, I don't, whatever. I already said their names. I'm not the first person to throw these out there. But it's, this is Carl Lentz, and he's a pastor, and he's heralded, and
he's a rock star.
He's a rock star, but he's also a man of God, right? And he's got 3 or 4 kids and a wife.
Oh, so he was having an affair.
Yes.
Got it.
And we take pleasure in this world when we watch men who profess to be pure fall,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's something kind of this sick pleasure in watching, I guess, what people might call hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
Where this guy's been espousing a doctrine of purity and of God and of holiness. And then sure enough, here he is,
Right.
stepping out of his marriage and not being the good father or good man that everyone seemed to think he was.
Wow.
But the thing I want to say is that throughout history, all of our quote unquote great men have had their fallacies, right?
Right. And
Or
oftentimes,
fallibilities. excuse me.
oftentimes in this sort of capacity too, you
Co-
become this powerful, like well-seen person, and like people are attracted to you, and it's tough.
Yes, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that was who came to mind.
was
Nelson
having
Mandela.
tons of affairs. Was Nelson Mandela?
Yep.
Gandhi would like sleep naked with women to test his celibacy or something. There were all kinds of weird stuff about him. The question I would have for you is, I think you nailed it, which is that it's power, isn't it?
Power's hot.
Power corrupts the minds of those who have it.
I guess that too.
Because I don't know that I'm not cheating on my girlfriend because I'm a better guy than these guys. Right? Maybe
Right. Your argument is that it is because you are
because
objectively a worse guy.
Maybe it's because
You are not as good as
I
them.
don't have the power of Carl Lentz.
Correct.
If I'm in front of 5,000 swooning fans twice a Sunday, getting all these people saying I've changed their life, baptizing Justin Bieber answering his texts and flying out to his Malibu home anytime he needs me for a crisis of faith. Yeah, why wouldn't you? It's that Bill Burr bit. Why wouldn't you think you couldn't bang someone and get away with it?
Right.
Keith Raniere.
Right. Good example.
These are
from The
powerful people. They have amassed power from a following, and then they become corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So power corrupts all, and that's always been the case. I don't know. What's your thought?
I mean, dude, it makes me think of the eunuch in Game of Thrones. And how at one point he talks about how much of an advantage it is for him to not have those issues with, desire and whatever.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's really interesting because you're right. I mean, it's no coincidence that high profile people have trouble maintaining relationships for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's rare. Like a guy like Paul Newman being married and being obsessed with his wife the whole time, like that is exceptionally rare, especially for a guy as attractive and as, A-list as he was, you know what I mean? There's always all sorts of shit. And also it allows you, by being in that position, it allows you to kind of explore any weird shit you want to do too, which maybe we all have that in us. But like, again, a high percentage of these high profile people, you find out this weird fucking shit about them. And, it seems par for the course. I like to think that, one day, if it ever comes to the point where it's hard for me to like remain on the righteous path, I hope that I'm able to, stay on it and be a good guy and all that stuff. But who knows? It's hard to really know before you're in those situations.
Yeah. It made me wonder. It made me wonder a lot. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot more thoughts on that. It's just like, what is it? Why do I not cheat?
Right.
Why do I not?
Being with your girlfriend, maybe. I mean, dude, this guy he has had a family, he had a bunch of kids, whatever. Like that is much more the prototype of a person that's cheating than a person like you who's with his girlfriend. They're not even engaged yet. They're choosing to be together when they could, pretty seamlessly choose not to be.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the thing. I don't think that I'm up. People talk about like, oh, they read this story and they're like, all men are pigs. Well, that's not true, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's simply not true. And I don't think that I'm a better guy than Carl Lentz. Look what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how many lives. I'm sure he's like, helped people cure themselves of addictions by pointing them towards God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's saved a lot of people. I'm sure he's kept people on the path of righteousness, or at least enabled them to live a better life in some way. Right. So you'd have to say that his body of work makes him a better man than me.
See, but it depends. Like, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure people would say that it's first and foremost important to be like a good guy.
Fine. Let's go to the Martin Luther King example then. Okay. Martin Luther King is a better man than I am. Absolutely. 100%. Did more for history, did more for people to better the world than just about anyone.
Right.
Okay? So why am I able to resist and he wasn't?
Again, dude,
were more women throwing themselves at him? Maybe.
And also, who knows what I don't know enough about this, but who knows what the arrangement was in the marriage. A lot of the time, people who kind of like have affairs and stuff like their wives know. I don't know if that was the case with him or whatever. And I should know more about this before I talk more about it. But you know what I mean? Like the circumstances are just different, dude. Like when you're married, it's just a completely different ballgame than when you're not. And it's still something worth exploring, but it's like, why do you cheat? Why don't you cheat versus why other people don't cheat? I think it's just like, you'd have to be comparing yourself to somebody who's in your circumstances. It's hard for you to compare yourself to Carl Lentz, in my opinion, being a guy who's married with children.
Do you know what I think the biggest reason is that I don't?
Yes. What?
The obvious answer is like, I don't want to hurt my girlfriend whom I love.
Yeah.
Right. But the other answer is, do you know how stressful it is to cheat?
It's not worth it.
Do you know how much stress there is of like worrying that your phone is going to light up or something with a text from the person and that your girlfriend or wife is going to see it, and then that's that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden your phone becomes a bomb waiting to go off. That sucks.
Totally. And dude, not only is that stressful, but that just feels bad. You feel bad.
My girlfriend knows the passcode to my phone.
Oh,
The other night, she picked it up to start scrolling on some Street Easy stuff because we were looking at apartments. Her phone was on the other side of the room. It was just easier. I walked back into the room and saw her on my phone and had no worries.
It's a good feeling.
There's nothing on there that I was like, what a relief that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, that's great. Do it 100%. And I think that is the most important lesson there is like by cheating on your girlfriend, you ultimately don't get to have it both ways, because if you do that, you inevitably do not get to enjoy your relationship as much.
Yes.
You just don't. And if you can compartmentalize it like that, and there's one thing, and slipping up, making a mistake is different than kind of like plotting. I consider that like second degree cheating, and first degree cheating being you're actively plotting, you're planning, you're flirting, your intention is to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
Both of those things are bad, but like, why be in your relationship? It's just, I respect my girlfriend a lot, and I would hate to just like to do that to her. I wouldn't be able to look her in the eye. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's an interesting discussion.
Well, Carl Lentz, I wish you the best of luck. Uphill battle for him. I think he was let go by the church.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he was kind of the face. I mean, he was, as you said, their rock star.
So what do they do now?
I don't know. And I wonder if all those people who thought Hillsong was, their saving grace, are they now disillusioned? Are we just going to see like gangs of Hillsong followers out in the streets, like bent over trash cans, banging each other in public and shooting up heroin because it was all a lie.
Their leader has fallen.
Yeah.
Just fallen to civil war within the church because after their strong man has been deposed.
What happened to all the members of Nexium for whom that was their defining path?
I don't know yet. I sort of gave up on the vow, but I'd like to.
I did too.
There's another follow-up documentary about
just about
what's
India.
her name? Yeah, about India.
Dude.
The girl. India the girl to be the
After watching enough of The Vow and seeing how obstinate she was and how angry she would get at her mother for trying to help.
I know. It was a bummer.
I just don't have a ton of sympathy for her. I'm sorry. I get that she was brainwashed, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So many people trying to point you back towards a better truth, and yet you continue to defy and even sort of lock people out.
Right.
Then what? You finally wake up one day and now you get your own documentary about how, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know,
dude. Well, I have a separate thought that I
please.
And I know at this point when this episode comes out, the election will probably have been, hopefully wrapped up in a clean fashion. But it was reminding me of the impact of last time, because last time I went to bed before it was over and I woke up and Trump was the president. And that was surprising. And I had been dreaming about it the night. I remember waking up in the morning with my hand on my remote control being like, am I ready to like see what happened yet or not? Because I had no idea. I didn't check my phone, whatever. And I was seeing a girl at the time and she just decided never to leave the house again for 3 months. And it ended. And now she's like engaged to a woman.
What?
Which is like, pretty.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. She's like happily dating.
No. Why didn't she leave the house for 3
She was
months?
really depressed about the outcome of the election. But, maybe who knows what she's into or whatever. But we had been having a nice time together and that ended abruptly. So it was very interesting. This time it was the opposite. Like I went to bed on election night thinking that, Trump was looking good. I mean, he was minus 700 in Vegas and I don't know what the outcome is, but I remember waking up the next morning and having that be different. And it's crazy that the last 2 elections, I've gone to bed thinking one thing, waking up thinking another thing.
Right.
And that's like pretty random and unique.
Well, I think it just shows how inaccurate the exit polls, even some of Nate Silver's thinking.
Right.
Although I think Nate Silver said Biden was going to win this time. And it certainly looks, this is Friday of the week of the election. It certainly looks like Biden has won it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. I'll be very glad to be on the other side of all of this and just try to.
Stressful.
You know what's crazy to me? I forgot about COVID.
I know. And apparently it's like surging hard.
The worst it's ever been.
Fuck.
The worst it's ever been.
Crazy.
Lockdowns everywhere.
Crazy, man. You know what's funny? I saw an interesting statistic that I'd like to discuss with you that I think is interesting. So apparently in this election, it's the highest percentage of the population that turned out to vote since 1908. And
Wow.
I'm just thinking, like, that's pretty fucking pathetic. Because in 1908, people were fucking riding horses to the polls, dude. They were walking 12 miles to the polls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, then they were voting more. You know what I mean? Like, anybody who isn't voting, come on, get your shit together.
Yeah.
It's good that a lot of people voted this time, but hopefully moving forward, we have a more active voting population.
That's a really
now.
interesting point, and I wonder how much that holds up. Meaning, I wonder if in 1908 were there more people. Yeah.
Percentage of the population.
Right.
So I know there were fewer people, but
Yeah.
it's still a pretty wild statistic to me.
Well, here we are. It's the 2020s. I'm excited to be in a decade of proper naming.
Instead of the aughts,
the tens or
tens.
the 2000s.
Yeah.
From now on, we've got 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
The,
right?
the roaring 20s for the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
foreseeably.
they'll be properly defined decades.
Totally.
And because you hear about looking back at the 1900s, and you hear about the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, something comes to your mind whenever you hear about that decade.
Right.
When I think about,
Let's play this game.
yeah, all right, 1960s, what do you think of?
I think of like the big hairdo. What's that thing called? No, the when girls had the big beehive hairdo.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that was called.
That's what I think of. I don't
Okay.
know.
So for me, it's Vietnam War and protests and also
Your answer's so much better than mine.
no.
I'm really self-conscious.
No.
Oh
no.
my God.
It's 1960s Vietnam War protests as well as sort of hippies and drugs.
Right. Right.
It's
Better answer.
peace, love, Beatles, Rolling Stones.
70s.
70s is more, to me, it's like not Motown, but like Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
And
Like
I
Soul,
think, like,
Al Green.
the civil rights movement really, maybe I have that wrong. Maybe civil rights was 1960s too. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking of soulful
Uh-huh.
black music really flourishing.
Mhm.
I think of like a little bit of disco.
Okay.
Yeah, I think disco, Saturday Night Fever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Was that 80s?
It might have been like late 70s into the 80s, but I'm not totally sure. I think of Watergate
Oh,
and vagina. I think of vagina, like big, hairy vagina.
oh, interesting.
And also from the framework of like, that was the golden era of American film, the 70s. Like the mainstream films
Godfather
were like
and all.
absolute class. I mean, you can go on forever. Midnight Cowboy, Godfather, Deer Hunter. There's like millions of like every great movie.
Yeah.
And even the porno was directed really well. Like there was good writing. It was shot well. It was shot like, and obviously the vagina situation back then, it was kind of like a free for all. And it was also it was the best time in our history to raw dog because there was a cure for syphilis and there was no AIDS.
Really?
You could just fuck everybody however you want. Condoms essentially, in my mind, didn't even exist.
Yeah, but how was birth control back then?
You were pulling out. But you could, I mean, there was abortion clinics and stuff back then. Not that I'm saying that that's a good thing you should be doing, but there was a way to remedy any issue
Yeah, but dude,
carefree.
in our age, the access to and the developments of things like, IEDs
Yeah.
and the pill
That's
and
true.
the science behind really improving birth control for women has rendered for a lot of people the fear of accidental pregnancy
Yeah. And dude,
much
Go
less.
ahead, sorry.
Much less.
Dude,
Sorry.
totally. No, I watched during the beginning of the quarantine situation, I chain watched all the old Frontlines. And one of the, and the old ones,
You're the only person I know who would ever do something like
well, listen, they're really good. And the old ones, the only ones that they have are the ones that are like still relevant.
Yeah.
And there's one about, the Wellesley class of 1969 with Hillary Clinton, really interesting. But one of them was about abortion and abortion clinics and like the same shit as now, like people kind of protesting, whatever, being a divisive issue. And the way that they aborted then was way more of a traumatizing experience. Like, how they talk about the coat hanger situation?
Oh.
Like they were doing shit. It wasn't an actual coat hanger. Like you could go to a Planned Parenthood still and all that stuff, but like it was a much more gruesome process.
Jesus.
So you're right about that.
Yeah.
But still 70s to me,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. 1980s. What do you got?
Crack.
Really?
Yeah,
Straight up.
that's what I think about.
Okay, so for me, 80s is like nightclubs.
Mhm.
It's Studio 54, and it's cocaine.
Yeah. All
and
that too.
colors.
Yeah.
Lots of colors. Flock of seagulls haircuts. Guys wearing blazers with the sleeves rolled up.
Right.
Big hair, crazy makeup. Basically like Hot Tub Time Machine.
Tony Montana.
Yeah, cocaine. That like
Yeah.
a nightclub scene. That's what I picture for the 80s. What about 90s?
Well, before we move on though, but
sorry.
the 80s are such an interesting time to me. You know what I mean? Like just like all that stuff you just said. So much crazy shit happening. Where I don't know, whatever. So
yeah, but expound on that.
So like crazy, like there was the Iran Contra thing, and there was
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan, and there was crack, and like you said, there's all this partying, and like it seemed like less. And I don't know if I'm just pulling this out of my ass. It seemed like a less creative time than the 70s because there was just so much shit going on, and like
Yeah.
Pablo Escobar, and like what a
Right.
crazy fucking time. New York City was so dangerous
Yes.
and like violent and crazy,
Yeah.
and it just seemed like a very tumultuous time.
Yes.
Whereas the 90s to me seems more boring. Like, and maybe it's because I grew up during the 90s, but the 90s to me seems the least interesting of the decades that we've talked about.
it's a little monochromatic.
And maybe that's a good thing.
It might be, but it's also to me 90s is angsty teenagers,
Right.
grunge,
Right.
Green Day,
Kurt Cobain.
Jinko jeans. It's people being angry and not knowing why, but not even really having much to be angry about.
Interesting.
I think that to me is the 90s, and
Right.
having lived through the 90s when I was whatever from 1 year to 10 years old. So I became aware as a person in the 90s.
Right.
Not much, but I was able to form memories, and I was able to have a sense of what things were like. Still a young child, but
Right. Like, yeah, terrorism in the 90s to me, I mean, even though it was happening in Russia and happening in other places, but terrorism in the 90s to me was like crazy white people doing crazy shit.
yeah.
Unabomber, Terry Nichols and Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bombing. Like those were the crazy big, this was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting time. And, what's his name? Francis Fukuyama, the political theorist, I guess you want to call him, called it the end of history. It was the end of the Soviet Union. There was no rival to the United States.
Right.
We didn't have any like significant conflicts. And it's interesting to see how that like ultimately ended up not being the case as
Yeah.
things continued to unfold.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
Sports. I mean, he was just such a big deal. But
huge.
okay, the 90s to me is still a less identifiable decade in my mind
Me too.
than even the 2000s.
I agree. And even with the fashion of the 90s sticking so hard now and in the past couple years, like it's significant in that way, but to me still it is much more insignificant than the decades that surround it.
By the way, speaking of the 80s outfits, you know what goes really well with a blazer with the sleeves rolled up?
What?
A pair of Bird Dogs pants, Giulio. Why, of course.
Dude, nothing better to roll up your sleeves and crack a line of cocaine off a glass table than wearing your fucking bird dogs.
It's the best pair of pants for the crack epidemic.
Absolutely. Dude. You can fucking hop into the pool with them. The insides of them will dry off very quickly after you're done doing whatever crazy activities you're up to.
Absolutely.
And when you throw them back on, that silk lining will cool you down after the heat that's brought on by heavy drinking and heavy drug use.
Yeah, when you're having a full-on panic attack night after doing, way too many club drugs that you're not entirely sure whether or not they've been stepped on, make sure you slide into your lovely, comfortable Bird Dogs pants. They will absolutely bring you back to a level head.
Totally. And when you run out of money and you find yourself in the middle of the street having to buy crack in an alley and things get a little dodgy, fortunately, after you use the promo code OOPS after your first purchase, you'll be able to pull out your handy pair of nunchucks to fight off any and all predators.
That's exactly right. Yes. In the depths of a horrific Coke binge. I think they'll be okay with this ad read. Look, here's the deal. We actually do really love the pants. They're super comfortable. We wear them all the time. I wear them at least 2, if not 3 of the 5 days of the week. And go to birddogs.com right now. Promo code OOPS. You'll get a pair of nunchucks with your first pair. They're the best. Just do it. Trust us. Okay, really quick. 2000s. What do you got?
9/11.
It is 9/11 for sure. Yeah, undeniably. And then the wars that ensued.
Yeah, what a crazy time.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be that. There wasn't much in the 2000s that you can think of that wasn't impacted deeply by 9/11.
Totally. And George W. Bush has become so much less controversial since Trump has become a much more sort of divisive president. George W. Bush seems just harmless.
Yeah, he's out there painting. He's on his ranch. He's just a folksy cowboy.
I know. And at the time, that was you could still carry on business as usual. I remember George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton apparently had this father-son relationship.
Kinship, yeah.
And it's interesting how, and even George W. Bush and Obama had a great relationship.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if Trump somehow falls into that in some capacity ever. It seems unlikely, but it's interesting to think about.
I have a hard time imagining that.
Yeah.
So then the 2010s.
To me, it's the financial crisis happened, of 2008, which to me identifies that next period of time.
Okay, but then you'd have to say Obama too.
Yeah, I guess so. And maybe I'm too close to it to really be able to accurately assess it.
I wonder. Yeah.
But
I think for me, 2010s is also a heightened awareness of things like fitness and diet.
Interesting.
Brought on by the podcasting revolution.
Interesting. Social media, of course.
Social media, the growth of that, Facebook, intelligence sharing, data sharing.
Yeah.
All of that. And then, of course, in 2016, the Trump election.
Oh, yeah. Very much so.
It's a big decade, the 2010s.
Totally.
It really is. I mean, there was a lot packed in there.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that technology becoming so prevalent in all of our lives is probably going to be one of the most looked back or things that you'd look back on and be in the 2005 whenever it all started, this is when it all started. Then I think that we're going to look back at that and be wow.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, that's a fair point. If you had to pick a decade from the 1960s until now, just from a music perspective, what's your one decade you're choosing?
I mean, it has to be the 90s. It's where it's where I learned about music. I learned to love music. I developed the taste that I still have today. And older people in my family would tell me, what is this shit you're listening to? And now that shit, people my age are the music of my day was much better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So for me, the 90s. Granted, there's other great decades and stuff, but what about you?
Dude, I might choose the 60s, honestly.
How come?
Because I think you can live on the Beatles and the Rolling Stones forever.
Yeah.
I really do. I think you can just, and I'm sure Marvin Gaye was big then too. You can just live on that.
Yeah.
It's funny. The library of work that those bands put out and some of the other big bands and musicians in that time is endless. Totally. And you'd never get bored.
Yeah, and it's funny. That was the music that was kind of served to me. When I would be in the car with my parents, it would be late 50s, early 60s, Elvis, the Beatles, Motown, all that shit.
Yeah.
And I love, and I know all the words to all the songs, to the point where my parents are even like, how do you know that? I'm like, this is what we listen to in the car. Are you serious? But the music that I discovered on my own, I think, is the one that resonates the most with me. But that's interesting.
We listen to books on tape in the car.
Oh, interesting. Very ahead of the curve.
A lot of E.B. White.
What's
E.B. White wrote Charlotte's Web.
Oh, yes. I
Trumpet of the Swan.
I only know Charlotte's
All
Web.
kinds of weird anthropomorphic stories.
It's a great word.
Yeah.
Did you always have a gem in there somewhere of a good word?
A word?
Every episode, you have a killer word.
It's that one. People know that one.
Anthropomorphic. They do, but like you got that in there. That was good. Chris, what do you got?
I just wanted to say, if you're like interested on all this like going back in old year stuff, there's a show on Netflix. I think it's called this. It's just called like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
There are these really deep dives into these
Into the decades.
It's always interesting.
So if
It's cool.
Yeah, you should check those out.
Yeah.
I remember even when I was a kid and I would watch cable and I watched a shit ton of TV, but I remember they would do that then. There was a show on VH1 where they would do that. And that's where I got to like see these comedians who I now work with. And it's crazy. Like Sherrod Small, Christian Finnegan, like people we see around town. And it's so funny that when I would see anybody who I saw on TV at the time in any capacity, I was like, that person's a mega celebrity bajillionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And these people who I just listed are very successful people in their own right for sure. But I wonder if this generation, with all the access to what celebrities' lives are really like, feels the same way.
Yeah, dude.
I think that they're more aware. Like if you see some guy on Instagram, you don't immediately think that guy's rich. Do you?
No.
Do people think that?
No, but Logan Paul, when he shows up places, there are crowds.
He's the real deal.
Yeah.
I heard his podcast is really good.
Impulsive.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. Really quick. To me, I just want to give a nod to Prohibition era.
Oh yeah. Roaring
what
20s.
is it? End of the 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it would have been so fun to drink when it was illegal. Because smoking weed when it was illegal, and I'm talking illegal everywhere, was really fun. It was a treat.
Right.
You felt like you were getting away with something. You felt risky. You felt edgy, and alive. The high was like, it was so different from drinking a glass of wine.
Right.
Or even having an underage beer.
We have some listeners in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure that maybe you can go over there and get the same kind of thrill. Just go into a devout neighborhood,
I know.
crack a beer.
Yeah, but
cause a stir.
Isn't it the case that in these dry countries in the Middle East, Westerners are allowed to drink?
I've heard that that's the case in like
I
a
think
UAE.
in the UAE,
Yeah.
they will serve a Western hotel.
Yeah.
They'll serve a Westerner, but not somebody who lives there.
In Jordan, I remember it being the same way too. So I'm sure there's ways to get around that uncontroversially.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing to explore. Dude, so someone emailed us saying how they thought it was like our stories about the other night that we got drunk together, which I'm still recovering from, by the way.
You posted that picture and
of you and me.
I think it was very good because everybody was like, Jesus, Francis.
I actually felt bad about that for a second. Were you annoyed at me?
Not at all.
I didn't think
I'm
you looked
not
fucked
a
up.
woman. What the fuck do I care what you post of me? I don't care how I look.
Okay. We definitely
care.
We definitely look 3 sheets to the wind there, dude.
Dude, if you zoom in, one eye is at the camera and the other one is dancing away.
In the
It is
moonlight.
just off over the hills, gallivanting in an orchard somewhere. I am so unfocused and my eyes are barely open. And we were just seeing that picture made me realize how lit up we were.
It was a really fun.
We were fucking drunk. It was so fun.
It was so much
fun
fun
to get that drunk. I hadn't been that drunk in a long time.
A long time. And it just makes me think like, and someone emailed us this as well. They're like, hopefully you guys travel together. And I really think that if we went to some like random place, like the prospect of like you getting yourself in trouble somehow by saying the wrong thing and me having to like damage control or the other way around, that's like a very funny scenario.
I am not a liability traveler. I take pride in that. I've always been somebody. I don't even like come close.
I wasn't suggesting that you are, but the only reason I said that is because you have said in the past that you would never go to North Korea because you think you would end up like Otto Warmbier.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say the wrong thing, but it wouldn't be like, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Guard. You know, I'm not going to
Right.
egg them on. I would just be like, so
I'm so sorry.
does supreme leader, what, like, does he have a big dick? You know, whatever it would be. And then they'd be like, you can't talk about his dick. And then I'd be in trouble. So
You guys would find out that you went to summer camp together and he would let you off the hook.
maybe. He grew up in like Austria or Switzerland.
He went to La
or
Rose
something.
in Switzerland, which is famously one of the most expensive private schools in the world. There are 2 campuses. There's the ski campus,
Yeah.
and then there's the regular campus. And he went there under a like secret name.
Wow.
Pretty fucking funny.
Unreal.
All right, we got a couple good emails here.
Excellent.
So here we go. So this first one, I'm just going to run by you. We don't have to go into too much depth about it.
Good.
I thought it was pretty funny and pretty unique, so I respect it, so I'm going to go there.
Cool.
So it starts off, I have a poll suggestion for the pod. Why is it socially frowned upon to eat more than 1 banana? But when it comes to treats like cake, sure, have 2 pieces. Have a bunch of brownies.
Mm.
It's like, and it's also like if you eat 2 string cheeses, you're crazy. But if you fry them up and dip them in marinara sauce, give me 6.
All right. I have a very, very simple answer to this. You don't peel mozzarella sticks. You don't peel cake.
Wow.
You peel string cheese. You peel a banana.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
Having to
What the fuck?
undress your food means
the
that you
fuck?
should only have one.
This is like Francis living in 2040. The rest of us living in 2020.
Dude, think about this.
That's crazy.
Think about
dude.
this.
That's
Do you know those
hilarious.
super fancy chocolates, the Ferrero Rochers,
Yes.
that you have to individually unwrap?
Yes.
What psychopath do you know at a dinner party who's just like crumpling up multiple empty,
Unfortunately,
Ferrero-
many members of my family.
Yeah.
I think Italians are suckers for those.
When you disrobe food, you should only have one.
That was such an incredible answer.
That would be my answer to that.
What a great answer.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Wow. This person, whoever sent us this, Steven, he's going to be so impressed, dude. Unfucking believable.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a funny story now that I
Good,
think you're going to
good.
enjoy.
Hit me.
This is called Oops at the Gas Station. Okay, here we go. I've been driving with extremely low tire pressure for the past couple months,
Oh, good.
avoiding having to do it because my ex-boyfriend used to take care of that and I've never done it before. A few weeks ago, I finally decided to stop and figure out how to do it myself. It was a weekday, about 7 a.m., full daylight, and I pulled up into a gas station in New Jersey. I'm specifying New Jersey because we do not pump our own gas. There's a guy who has to do it. It's the law
it's
for
the
anybody who
law.
doesn't know that. So the gas station attendant actually works and frequently has to come out of his office to pump gas. I see that the air pump only takes coins, so I grab a few dollars and head to the small building with the vending machines and the gas station attendant's office to get some change. I walked in and turned the corner to the vending machine only to see the gas station attendant standing up, pants around his ankles, eyes closed, furiously masturbating.
Oh, my God.
Like furiously. I obviously gasped and was like, oh my God, and quickly walked out. Not to make this too serious because I'm 100% okay, but I was obviously pretty freaked out given what I just saw and that I'm a female completely alone and there was no one else getting gas at the time. A fair point.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid the gas station attendant may get defensive, react aggressively, and or call the police or something. I don't know. The next thing I know, as I was speed walking back to my car, the gas station attendant comes out of the building and starts asking me if I need anything. He literally acted as if I had just walked in on him picking his nose. I told him that I just was looking for coins, but it was fine. I didn't need them, but he insisted he'd go back in and get me the coins. So he comes out and hands me the coins. And I'm thinking, Jesus, like, I don't know. I know where these hands have been. But I take the coins and then I don't know why, but I start putting the air in my tires. My hands were shaking from the whole ordeal, blah, 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 blah. But I was like, that is pretty fucking impressive. Pants around, she goes, again, pants around the ankles, standing up, facing me when I walked in. 50 to 60-year-old guy. That's crazy.
So he definitely knew that she had seen him.
Do we think so? Eyes closed? Like maybe. And then do you think he had some thrill out of handing her the quarters?
No, I think that was him trying to do damage control in his way. Meaning like, hey, look, I'm a normal guy. Now I'm just doing my job again. You know, handing out quarters and what else can I do for you here at this gas station?
Dude,
Not peep show place.
And dude, I hear a lot of these kind of stories of people working in these 24-hour establishments, just doing insane shit. Dude, I once saw a deli guy, and a lot of these guys who run these delis, they typically are like, no, I don't want to judge them, but like you get the impression that a lot of them come from like Yemen and they have religious backgrounds. And, and I lived in a neighborhood where this was the case. One time I saw the deli guy getting blown by like a much younger guy who looked like he also worked at the deli.
Holy shit.
Isn't that fucked up?
Dude, I have never walked in on an erect penis.
Not even in the steam room, bro?
No, not of no kind. I've never seen someone boned up.
Wow.
Wish
I could say the same, brother. Wish I could say the same.
I don't think I've seen someone, fully boned.
Right. There's something very invasive about the idea of unwillingly seeing an erect penis in an aggressive fashion that you were not planning to or did not want to see.
Yeah,
it's not an ideal
dude.
situation.
It's shocking. It's so much less shocking to see a flaccid penis. You're at a gym, locker room, guys walking around naked, whatever. It's par for the course.
Do you walk around naked in the locker room?
Only to get, I can't remember the last time I was in a gym locker room, but back in the day, to get to the shower or whatever, I'd wrap a towel around my waist and put it on the hook,
when you hit the shower,
come back out, and then when you're changing, I don't have much, I don't have any self-consciousness about being naked, but I do find that I don't like it when I can tell people are staring at me. I used to,
it's not ideal.
When I first got to New York, I was a member of the Harvard Club, which has a gym and, squash courts and a really nice locker room and all this, but it's more importantly, very, very affordable for recent grads.
Right.
For your first 5 years out of college, it's like $360 a year.
Wow.
Total.
That's like Soho. I know I keep referencing Soho House, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. And
under 27, right?
It just makes a lot of sense. It's as douchey as it sounds. It makes sense to join that just as a gym. Other gyms are way more expensive.
And I imagine, and not that this matters that much for you, but I imagine that there's really nice networking opportunities.
It wasn't even, I was tutoring, but I used it as a place to bring my kids for mock tests.
Oh, I bet their parents fucking loved it.
They loved it. I'd be like, Saturday mornings, we do mock tests for the SSAT at the Harvard Club. And they're like, okay.
You sneaky
that
bastard.
Sounds safe.
That is the best investment of your fucking life.
And then you get to write off the dues as a business expense.
Oh my God.
It was
win-win.
It was a really good thing, but then when I stopped using it, it wasn't worth it anymore. And after your 5th year, it goes up to like $800 a year or something. Point is, that locker room was always filled with really old men who would just air dry naked.
Yeah.
They had no urgency whatsoever about clothing themselves.
And there's much more surface area when you're an old man.
Yeah.
Your
And when
balls
you're,
hang a bit. It's more of a jarring sight.
And when you're a young, fit guy in there and they're all there kind of looking at you because you're the best of them by miles, it's not that fun. It's a little creepy and just gross. And I don't know. Like, I would have been much more comfortable at a David Barton with a bunch of really good-looking gay guys ogling me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. Dude, you know what I'd like to do to people when I'm in Los Angeles? I call it the Lyndon Johnson. And I call it the Lyndon Johnson because Lyndon Johnson used to invite foreign dignitaries to the White House, get naked in the sauna, and then kind of just like show his gigantic
Apparently
dick.
He had a huge hog.
Big hog.
Yeah.
So mine isn't as about that. I'm not trying to just like show people my dick. But if you take one of your friends to Wii Spa with you and don't tell them what the deal is, there's like a completely naked area.
What's Wee Spa?
It's like a Korean spa in LA that I love.
Oh, okay.
And there's two areas. There's like the co-ed area where everybody wears these like sort of gender neutral outfits to kind of like deter people from becoming predators, sexual predators, I think.
Okay.
But then there's the men's only area where you're completely naked and you don't get full towels. They only give you these little towels. So I just find it really funny to like show up and bring one of my boys there and I don't tell them.
Yeah, this is classic Giulio.
Is that fucked up of me though?
Hijinks.
Because then I think like when you get in that situation, if you don't want to do it, like you're a pussy. If you're at the spa and you're like, dude, I don't want to do this. This is weird. I feel like you're like a pussy in that situation.
Yeah, but why? I mean, if you knew that you were putting him in a position to be uncomfortable, then you can hardly expect him. You can hardly be put off by him reacting uncomfortably.
So there's certain friends you can do this to, and certain friends you can't.
Okay, yeah,
I think I'll be honest. I would think it would be funny to do to you.
yeah, I'd roll with it.
I don't know if Chris would find it that funny. I'm even just seeing the reaction on Chris's face. He'd be like, "Bro, you're tripping."
Yeah,
And maybe he'd go upstairs and forgive me, but like I wouldn't play that prank on Chris.
yeah,
Chris seems like less into naked jokes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
Also, seeing your buddies naked it's like there are some dudes who are just way too comfortable with it, and then that makes me uncomfortable.
And but I'm not weird about it. Like the etiquette is to kind of hold the small towel in front of your genital region as you walk around.
Okay,
That's sort of like the dignified
there
move.
should be some kind of concealing. Yeah.
At the Wee Spa. The only weird thing about the Wee Spa is that it's like a traditional Korean place also. So these Korean guys bring their children who are also naked into the area.
Oh, goodness.
So now you're just naked with children.
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
So I think I mentioned this before, but you'll like walk into the jacuzzi and you're like, oh, sorry, little buddy. And like your fucking shit is
Yeah,
going right
dude.
by their face.
That's not.
One time I was sitting in the cold bath, trying to deflame my muscle tissue, and a little boy just came and started pissing in from the outside of it with his hands on his hips,
Peeing in the bath?
peeing into the cold bath.
Oh, no.
And dude, he was a little boy. He was like 5. So it was funny. And I kind of started looking around being like gesturing at the kid. I'm like, anybody else seeing this? And then I was just like, all right, whatever. Hopefully the dilution of the pee to water ratio won't affect my health. And
You stayed in it.
I stayed in.
I'm not staying in a bath full of kid pee.
I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot of shit for this segment.
No. Let it ride, baby.
Okay. Well,
And
Wee
with-
Spa, check it out when it's acceptable.
Yeah, check out Wee Spa, and we are Oops the podcast. Lots of goofiness today. Thanks for joining us on a great week. We are glad that you stuck with it. Stay up, keep your head high, get outside, and move forward with your life. We're still here.
We're still here. Hit us up. Check out our YouTube.
Check out the YouTube. Email us your thoughts and stories. oopsthepodcast@gmail.com. I'm Francis. He's Giulio. See you soon, kids.
Guys, if you like this video, why don't you go check out some of our other videos? They're right there, right on the screen. We love you. We really appreciate it.
Oops.